similarly, we may say you can also adopt another policy. Another policy separately also you can adopt taxation policy. You can adopt taxation policy, where taxation policy is also central government taxation policy. State government is also sometimes imposing certain type of taxes. Our tax, especially what type of tax we mean here? No indirect tax. We are not touching the indirect tax, but we are concerned with direct taxes. Direct tax like income tax, corporate tax, or we may say wealth tax, gift tax, such types of direct taxes. During inflationary period, we know what is the nature of inflationary period? Too much quantity of money already in circulation, causing to inflation. So that what is the cure? What is the method by which we can reduce the pressure of inflation? By collecting more taxes from the people and reducing their disposable income. But during inflationary period, if there is inflation, in order to absorb the money from the pocket of individual and compel them to reduce their expenditure. Since prices are going up and up, government should adopt a policy of taxation during inflation, increase the direct tax rate. Increase the direct tax rate. Income tax rate increase, corporate tax rate increase, estate duty, wealth duty, and a number of direct taxes newly also you can introduce. New direct taxes may be introduced, existing direct tax rate may be increased, so that what happened? More money from the pocket of the individual is extracted by government. If you have more money with you, you may go to the market and demand, and so that there may be a possible rise in the prices, inflation will go up. How to restrict the people to buy more commodity during inflationary period? Money, purchasing power from the people is to be borrowed, is to be taken by increasing the direct tax rate or by introducing new direct taxes. By introducing new direct taxes as well as the existing direct tax rate enhancement, it is possible to absorb the money from the people to reduce their demand. To that extent, we can reduce pressure of inflation also. So direct tax increase, a method to control inflation by government. About the counter policy is during depression period. During depression period, to boost up the demand. To boost up the demand during depression period, more purchasing power should be available with the disposal of the people. They should have more money. In order to give more purchasing power with the people, what should be the direct tax rate? Reduce the direct tax rate. Income tax rate and other things are reduced. Reduce the direct tax rate, as a result of which you are left with more money to buy commodities from the market. There is a revival of the economy is possible. But here what is that? Reduce direct tax rate. Reduce direct tax rate during depression period so as to give more purchasing power to the people, so that they will come to the market and demand more commodity. Stimulation is possible. This is also applicable to the present situation of downtrend. You may know that the present situation of downtrend, direct tax rate, government already, corporate tax, direct tax analog. Direct tax, corporate tax already reduced from 30% to, we may say, that 22%, it is already reduced on direct taxes. And government have already declared that in the next budget, next month, 1st of February. 1st of February, the new budget will introduce. Already the finance minister has declared that they will reset, they will introduce new slab, new rate for income tax and other direct tax. With what object in order to give more purchasing power to the people, in order to boost up the demand for the economy, to escape from the downtrend, more purchasing power to left with the people, direct tax decrease. That policy is already decided. In the next budget, we can see how much, in what extent the government have adopted the policy of decreasing the tax rate and giving more purchasing power to boost the demand for the commodities in the Indian context at present. But that is also a policy measure, fiscal policy measure that can be adopted by government. Taxation policy. Which taxation? Only direct taxation. It is not concerned with indirect taxation. Direct taxation either increase or decrease according to inflationary or deflationary pressure existing in the country. Then we can also say one more type of fiscal policy that can be adopted: expenditure policy. Government should adopt expenditure policy. Expenditure policy. Government should adopt a new expenditure pattern. Expenditure policy. What shall be the new expenditure policy? During inflationary period, expenditure of the government should reduce. Reduce the expenditure by government during inflationary period and increase the government expenditure during depression period. All these are fiscal policy, because you know that what do you mean by fiscal policy? Government policies of controlling the economic system, like budgetary policy. Budgetary policy is a fiscal policy. Taxation policy is a fiscal policy. Public expenditure policy is a fiscal policy. Borrowing, government borrowing is a fiscal policy. These are all policy measures at the disposal of government to regulate and control the economic system. Any one of this or a combination of this. Any one of these policy or a combination of these various policy can be recommended as fiscal policy measure to control inflation or deflation in the country. The tax rate we have already changed even without a budget occasion. For example, the corporate tax is reduced. Is it by the introduction of the budget provision? It is also possible. Generally, we see a tax restructuring is done by government while a budget is introduced in the parliament. Generally. But in occasion, if a policy necessary to control the economic system till the next budget, they cannot wait for. They cannot wait for the till next budget. There may be a long period required for the introduction of the next budget. Before that, essentially, if so, they can introduce. Direct tax? Slab matter. That is in extreme cases, if it is required, government can do that measure. Anytime it is possible. Normally we find only through the introduction of budget. The policy will be there, and immediately after the budget there will be a money bill introduced in the parliament for the implementation or execution of the provisions in the budget. In occasions when necessary, without even a budget provision, government can introduce policy measures of taxation or expenditure, etc., to regulate and control the economic system. That is also possible. It is permissible. Then last fiscal measures. Usually it is for a inflationary period. It is suggested. It is better for an inflationary period to sell the commodity at a lower price and give the possible rise in the prices of commodity. This fiscal measures is generally suggested. സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല, അങ്ങനെ ഇതുവരെയും സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. Especially the subsidy, if it is allowed, it is കണ്ടിന്യൂഡ് ആണ്. ഡിപ്രഷൻ വരികയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പമ്പിങ് മോർ മണി ഈസ് വാട്ട് ഈസ് നെസസറി അല്ലേ. ടു ബൂസ്റ്റ് അപ്പ് ദി എക്കണോമിക് സിസ്റ്റം, പമ്പിങ് മോർ മണി ഈസ് നെസസറി. സബ്സിഡി സപ്പോസ് given to that person, you are relaxed, you are getting money, and with that money or with that provision at a lower price cooking gas is supplied, or at a lower price ration is given. That is also good to boost up the economic system. There is no changes required in subsidy provision during the depression period. It can continue as such, but usually the last fiscal policy measure is useful and suggested to control inflation. Strengthening the public distribution system especially recommended only at a occasion of rising prices rather than a depression pressure. During depression period we have other policy, counter policy measures are available to inject more liquidity into the economy. But usually the third one is for controlling inflation alone. We suggest as a instrument of controlling inflation only, not to regulate this depression, but to control the inflationary rise in the prices. Strengthening of the public distribution system through fiscal measures is suggested. Then coming over to this monetary policy measures, Reserve Bank of India policy. Monetary policy measures are the policy instruments introduced by the central bank of a country. In case of India, the central bank, Reserve Bank of India, what packages are introduced during inflationary as well as deflation. In both situations, we can use the monetary policy measures. Broadly speaking, monetary policy measures are of two types. We can classify the monetary policy measures of the Reserve Bank of India into two types. One is what is called quantitative techniques, and the other is called qualitative techniques. There are two groups or varieties of monetary policy instruments that may be used by the Reserve Bank of India to control the monetary system during inflationary as well as depression period. Monetary policy can be used, which can be of two types, quantitative and qualitative instruments. So first of all, we should distinguish what is quantitative and what is qualitative instruments of monetary policy meant by. For example, if a quantitative technique is used, by the Reserve Bank of India, the objective is either to expand the available quantity of money and credit in circulation, or to contract the available quantity of money supply and credit in the economy. Either to expand or contract the available quantity of money and credit in circulation. What policy measure is used, instrument is used by Reserve Bank of India, known as monetary policy measure, quantitative type. So quantitative instrument, when a quantitative instrument is used, the effect is what? Either expansion or contraction of the available supply and credit in the economy. Supply of the money and credit available from the commercial bank either expand or contract. During which period we want to pump more money into the economy, expansion. During which period expansion of money supply and credit is necessary in an economy. During inflationary period or during depression period, pumping money is necessary. During which period it is necessary? During depression period. Downtrend. During depression period, we find injection of more liquidity in the economy is necessary to stimulate the economy. To stimulate, to warm up the economy, to revive the economy, injection of more money during depression period is necessary. Appo this method of expansion of credit and money circulation necessary during depression period. During depression period, expansion is the objective through the monetary policy instrument introduced by RBI. Then, during which period a contraction of money supply and credit is necessary? During which period a contraction is necessary? Inflationary period. As inflation is because of what reason? Too much quantity of money already in circulation. As too much quantity of money already in circulation, what is necessary? Reduce the available supply and credit facility in the economy. So, contraction is during the period of inflation. During the period of inflation, a contractionary monetary policy is adopted. And during depression period, an expansionary policy measure is adopted. A quantitative instrument, if used in the economy, either expansion or contraction. That may be the intention behind a quantitative technique of monetary policy. And that expansion intended during depression period, contraction during the inflationary period, contraction and expansion during depression period, with which a quantitative technique is introduced. Then, in order to reduce the credit available in the country, what is a technology or what is a method by which it is possible to contract, reduce the quantity of money and the credit circulating in the economy? Make credit costlier and costlier. How can the credit be made costlier? By imposing a high rate of interest. Suppose the rate of interest for loan from the commercial bank is very high. You will reduce the loan facility from the commercial bank because it is too costly to get a loan. At a high rate of interest only you can get a loan from the commercial banks. So you may reduce the loan demand, credit creation automatically will reduce. During inflationary period, in order to contract the available quantity of credit and money in circulation, make credit costlier and costlier. Make credit costlier and costlier by increasing the rate of interest. By increasing the rate of interest, you can make a credit costlier in the economy. Costlier means make the credit dearer and dearer. Make the credit dearer and dearer, costlier and costlier, so that the policy adopted by the Reserve Bank, quantitative measure policy adopted by the Reserve Bank during inflationary period to contract the credit and available money supply in the economy, a dear money policy is adopted. Dear money policy is adopted by Reserve Bank during inflationary period. Dear money means make money dearer and dearer, costlier and costlier. Make loan dearer and dearer, costlier and costlier, which is possible by raising rate of interest. When the rate of interest in the commercial bank for loans going on increasing, it is costly to get a loan from the commercial bank, and so we will reduce. For unwanted purposes, you may take no loan. Only if a loan is very necessary, you may go and take a loan because it is costly to get a loan from the commercial bank. So the policy measure that should be adopted by the Reserve Bank of India during inflationary period to reduce the quantity of credit and money available in the country, a dear money policy is adopted. A dear money, costlier. Make money credit costlier and costlier. That is called dearer and dearer. A dear money policy is suggested during inflationary period to contract the available quantity of credit and money in circulation. On the other hand, during depression period, what is the intention? Pump more money into the economy. How can more money be pumped into the economy? Commercial banks should give lavish loan, and customers also must be attracted to get more and more loan from the commercial bank. Under what condition we may go and get a loan from the commercial bank? When the cost of a loan very lower. At a cheaper rate of interest, if commercial bank offer loan, we will jump. We will go and get a loan from the commercial bank. Therefore, what policy RBI should adopt during depression period to pump more money, increase the availability of credit and money in circulation, known as cheap money policy. Cheap money policy. Make credit cheaper and cheaper. Make credit cheaper and cheaper, so that at a lower and lower rate of interest you are getting loan from the commercial bank for necessary and unnecessary purpose. You may go and take a loan because it is very cheaper. As the cost of getting a loan from the commercial bank is becoming cheaper and cheaper, everyone may take a loan, and in such a manner pumping more credit, pumping more money into circulation possible. Don't forget that the method during inflationary period, monetary policy suggests dear money policy, and during depression period, to pump more money into the economy, monetary policy suggests a cheap money policy. By the introduction of a quantitative technique, either expansion or contraction. That is the intention. That is why it is known as quantitative technique. On the other hand, when a qualitative technique is introduced by the Reserve Bank of India, no change in the quantity. No increase, no decrease. If a qualitative technique or instrument is introduced by the Reserve Bank of India in the country, there will be no change in the quantity of credit and money supply, either in expansion or contraction, not there. That is not the intention.